Hey there, history buffs and lovers of the utterly bizarre. What if I told you that an entire war was fought over a stolen wooden bucket, or that a military lost a battle to flightless birds? Sounds like something out of a comedy movie, right? Well, buckle up, because truth is often stranger than fiction. Today, we're diving headfirst into the wacky, the wild, and the downright unbelievable with 5 historical events that sound totally made up. I mean, come on, a war over a bucket? But here's the thing. These stories, as ridiculous as they may seem, actually happened. Get ready to question everything you thought you knew about history as we uncover the truth behind these unbelievable tales. Let's go. Alright, let's kick things off with a real head-scratcher. The War of the Bucket. This was a full-blown conflict between 2 Italian city-states, Modena and Bologna, back in the year 1325. What could possibly spark a war between 2 seemingly civilized cities? Well, get this, it was a bucket. Yes, you heard me right, a simple wooden bucket. Picture this, a group of mischievous soldiers from Modena decide to sneak into Bologna and pull off the heist of the century. Their target? Not gold, not jewels, but a humble bucket used to draw water from the town well. The people of Bologna were outraged. This wasn't just some random prank, it was a direct attack on their pride and honor. They demanded the bucket be returned immediately, but Modena, flush with the success of their daring raid, refused, and just like that, war was declared. To this day, over 700 years later, you can still find that very bucket, carefully preserved and proudly displayed in Modena's Palazzo Comunale. Okay, from a war over a bucket, let's fast forward to 1518 in Strasbourg, France, where things get downright bizarre with the dancing plague. This was a full-blown epidemic of uncontrollable dancing that gripped the city for months. Imagine this. You're going about your day, when suddenly, an irresistible urge to dance takes over. You try to stop, but your body just won't listen. You dance and dance, day and night, until you're completely exhausted. That's what happened to hundreds of people in Strasbourg during the summer of 1518. It started with a single woman, Frau Troffea, who began dancing uncontrollably in the streets. Within days, dozens, then hundreds had joined her in this bizarre, involuntary dance marathon. The dancing plague eventually subsided after several months, leaving behind a trail of exhausted dancers and a whole lot of unanswered questions. From dancing plagues, let's hop on over to a showdown for the ages. Napoleon Bonaparte, the conqueror of Europe, versus a horde of fluffy bunnies. Yes, you heard that right. This isn't some alternate history fanfiction, this actually happened. Picture this. 1807, Napoleon, at the height of his power, decides to take a break from conquering nations to indulge in a little rabbit hunting. He orders his men to gather up 1,000 bunnies for a grand hunt. The bunnies are released and everyone expects them to scatter in terror. But these weren't your typical timid bunnies. Instead of running away, the bunnies, emboldened by their sheer numbers, charged straight at Napoleon and his men. Napoleon, the great military strategist, was completely caught off guard by the bunny blitzkrieg. He and his men tried to fight back, but the bunnies were relentless, swarming their legs, nibbling at their boots, and generally causing chaos. The story of Napoleon's defeat at the paws of 1,000 bunnies became a legendary anecdote, whispered in hushed tones throughout the French court. Imagine the scene. Napoleon, the man who had bested armies, now bested by bunnies. The bunnies, far from being intimidated, seemed to have a plan of their own. They swarmed in unison, creating a wave of fur and fury that Napoleon and his men simply couldn't handle. The men, who had expected a leisurely hunt, found themselves in a frantic scramble. Their boots were no match for the determined bunnies, who nibbled and clawed with surprising ferocity. Napoleon himself, usually so composed and strategic, was seen flailing and retreating from the onslaught. It was a sight that would be recounted with both humor and disbelief. The chaos was so intense that it became a defining moment, a bizarre footnote in the annals of history. The mighty Napoleon, brought low by a legion of bunnies. And so, the tale of Napoleon's unexpected defeat by 1,000 bunnies lived on. A curious reminder that sometimes, size doesn't matter. Even the smallest creatures can have the biggest impact. Alright. From Napoleon's bunny debacle, let's journey to the land down under for a conflict that's truly for the birds, the Great Emu War of 1932. This bizarre chapter in history is a testament to the unpredictability of nature, and the lengths humans will go to protect their livelihoods. Yes, you heard me right. A war against emus, those giant flightless birds that look like they haven't quite figured out evolution. These creatures, standing over 6 feet tall with their long necks and powerful legs, became an unexpected adversary for the Australian farmers. Now, Australia has a long and storied history of battling various creatures. But in 1932, their feathered foes, the emus, became public enemy number 1. The country was still reeling from the effects of the Great Depression, and the farmers were struggling to make ends meet. Tens of thousands of emus, enticed by the vast fields of delicious wheat, decided to have a massive feast, decimating crops and leaving farmers desperate. The emus, migrating from inland regions to the coast, found the wheat fields to be an irresistible buffet. The farmers appealed to the government for help, and the government decided to deploy the big guns, literally. The situation was dire, and the authorities believed that military intervention was the only solution to this avian invasion. Soldiers armed with Lewis machine guns were sent to combat the emu menace. These were seasoned veterans, ready to take on what they thought would be an easy mission. The Great Emu War had begun. The media quickly picked up on the story, and it became a sensational headline, capturing the imagination of the public. You might be picturing epic battles, but the reality was far more comical. The emus, with their erratic running patterns and surprising agility, turned out to be formidable opponents. Emus, it turns out, are incredibly good at dodging bullets. Their speed and unpredictable movements made them difficult targets, and the soldiers found themselves in a frustrating game of cat and mouse. The soldiers, despite their superior firepower, were completely outmaneuvered and outsmarted by their avian adversaries. The emus seemed to have an uncanny ability to evade capture and gunfire, leaving the troops bewildered and exasperated. After several weeks of embarrassing defeats, the government called off the troops. The emus had won. This unusual conflict remains a quirky footnote in history, a reminder that sometimes nature has the upper hand. Okay, for our final stop on this wild ride through history's weirdest moments, we're heading to Florence, Oregon, in 1970. This small coastal town became the unlikely stage for one of the most bizarre and infamous events ever recorded. For a story that's equal parts gross and explosive, the infamous exploding whale incident. This tale has been passed down through generations, becoming a legend in its own right. Now picture this, a 45-foot-long, 8-ton sperm whale washes ashore, very much deceased. The sheer size of this creature was both awe-inspiring and problematic. As the whale lay there baking in the sun, it began to decompose, releasing a truly unholy stench. The smell was so overpowering that it quickly became a major issue for the residents. People complained, and the town of Florence was desperate for a solution. The stench was unbearable, and something had to be done quickly to restore normalcy. Someone came up with the bright idea to blow the whale up. Yes, you heard that right. The plan was to use dynamite to solve the problem. Their logic? The explosion would vaporize the whale into tiny, non-smelly particles that would then be carried away by the ocean breeze. It seemed like a foolproof plan, at least on paper. On November 12, 1970, the day arrived. The townspeople gathered, filled with a mix of curiosity and hope that this unconventional solution would work. The dynamite was planted, the fuse was lit, and everyone braced themselves. There was a palpable tension in the air as they awaited the outcome. What followed was not the gentle misting of whale bits they were expecting, but a full-blown whale-splosion of epic proportions. The force of the explosion was far greater than anticipated. The explosion, instead of vaporizing the whale, had merely redistributed it, covering a large portion of Florence in a thick layer of whale goo. The aftermath was chaotic, with residents scrambling to clean up the mess. This incident remains a cautionary tale about the unexpected consequences of seemingly clever solutions. And there you have it, folks. 5 historical events that sound like they were ripped straight from the pages of a Monty Python sketch, but are in fact 100% real. From wars over buckets to bunny uprisings to exploding whales, history never ceases to amaze, amuse, and sometimes completely gross us out. So, which of these stories surprised you the most? Let me know in the comments below, and if you're hungry for more mind-blowing history, be sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss out on our next historical adventure. Until next time, keep exploring the weird side of history, because you never know what you might find.